so that we have this going. Welcome to class, everyone. I am going to start tonight by just kind of doing some general announcements for us, if that is okay. The first thing I want to go over is canned food drive. Okay, canned food drive is something at South High that is extremely important, and just this time of year to be mindful of others and whatnot. I really would appreciate it if you guys can get 5 to 10 cans to me in M2 as soon as possible. There's 74 of you, and that's a pretty large amount. So we should be overflowing with cans in my classroom. So that is going to happen until next Thursday. So please make sure that we get that done. I know I have 86 cans, but that's for my yearbook kids. They are on it. So let's get going with that, Cyber Patriot kids. We want to be the best club out there. The second thing there that is on the announcement there is sweatshirts. The sweatshirt form is in the Google Drive, and it is the same sweatshirt. It was the one I had on Friday. I've been bringing it back and forth to school. It's blue. It's got the Cyber Patriot logo on it. It says Spartans. They're really warm. They're 3/4 length zip up, and those of you that have it and those of you that want it, we just bring in your order forms by next Friday so we can get those ordered and back to you guys right after Thanksgiving. One of the things that we are going to do, and we're getting priced out right now, is we are going to add the patches to your jacket so you don't have to keep rebuying it each year. I would love your cans this Friday if you had them, but you need to get them in by next Thursday at the very latest. So back to sweatshirts, we are going to be ordering the patches that will have the South High's Cyber Patriot logo that's in the upper right-hand corner of our PowerPoint right now. And inside the green helmet hair is going to actually be the year that you are participating in Cyber Patriot and what level you are at. So if you were a gold team last year, we would put 2016, 2017 in a gold thread inside that helmet hair area, which would be kind of cool. Though that plan of attack will probably happen after round 2, so we can get those ordered and to you guys after that. The next round is, yes, of course, silver and platinum will also have that opportunity. I was just using the gold as an example. The next round 2, is going to be December 8th, Friday, December 8th. The pass will be in the Google Drive starting tomorrow so that you can go ahead and get your teachers signed. Remember, I don't necessarily need those passes. Those are more so that you tell your teachers and that they are aware of where you are. I know attendance had a problem with last Friday. I was a bit of a space cadet and forgot to send it to attendance that you guys were all going to be with me. So I got that rectified and changed so that you guys will have that now set up. So you will not be truant in those 4th, 5th, and 6th period classes. Okay. Lastly, I'm going to give kind of a little bit of a heads up shout out deal. National Computer Science Week in the United States is the first week in December, which is December 4th through the 8th. And again, we have our Cyber Patriot competition on the 8th, but we at South High are going to have, and instead of calling it just Computer Science Week, we are calling it Geek Week at South High. So be ready and be excited because we're going to need you guys to step up. There are going to be some dress-up days with ASB. Some of the other STEM classes are going to be participating. Yeah, when we're going to have the Revenge of the Nerds Day, I want everybody to dress up as their best nerd-looking person as possible. And you can't dress up as yourself because we're all nerds here. So be ready for that. Be ready for more information. And so make sure that you guys are excited about that. It is coinciding with code.org's Hour of Coding and trying to get people aware and knowledgeable about what else is out there for STEM. Okay. So those were my announcements. Again, cans this week or next week at the very latest by Thursday. Sweatshirt money due next Friday if you want one. Passes in the Google Drive for round 2. And Geek Week at South High is going to be that first week in December. Okay? All right, Mr. Bush, it is all yours.
Hi, everybody. So nice to see you all out there. We have a pretty good crowd. Mr. Wood was saying that because there was a band, we might not get as many people, but I see we got 28 people out there. So glad you're all there. Today, I am over at Northrop Grumman. I'm in a conference room, and I've also got Mr. Rodriguez and also Mr. Claudio. Mr. Claudio. Mr. Claudio is somebody who works for Red Hat, and you guys have heard a lot about Red Hat when we've talked about Linux, and just invited him along to see what this is all about, and hopefully we'll get some good questions from you that he can help answer, and we'll also help him see what kind of help you can use. Anyway, oops, wrong direction, here we go. All right, so the first thing I wanted to do was just start with discussion on the last competition. And I'm going to pick on people if you don't volunteer, but first of all, how did everybody think the competition went in the chat window? Go ahead and speak up. Uh-oh. I saw a note in there. Brennan said, my Cisco people failed. So we won't ask you to name names, but if your Cisco people didn't score very well, what happened? Can anybody tell me what happened? Okay, one was they did not double check. So you had, it was sort of like an open book test. You had 6 hours. And some people they just answered and they didn't double check. Somebody was using Google instead of going into the Network Academy and using the actual text. Now, okay, so that was yeah, thank you, Joy, for about the Cyber Patriots. Google it. We were just talking about that earlier today about when we're trying to prepare these charts. We said, hey, let's get up some good information. Yeah, we'll pull it up. Anyway, what else? As far as so that was with the Cisco. What about the Windows? Anybody have anything they want to share about doing Windows? I'm looking in the chat window, nobody's jumping in.
Mr. Bush, can I just roll back to what Andy was saying? This was a really awesome piece of advice that his sister Connie, who had been in the competition last year, did. He said, my sis told me to also try different browsers or different probably search engines when Googling, because different browsers have different answers or probably have different search policies on them with different browser or different applications. So Andy, that's a great, great piece of advice.
So does anybody else have they want to share their biggest success during the competition? I think Mark is, you're having problems with the audio. You could try dialing in via phone. Use the dial-in. Okay, Matthew, getting points after being stuck for an hour. So what was the thing that you did that got you those extra points? I mean, what was the breakthrough? What did you find? Can you even remember what it was? Matthew? Reset all the passwords. So remember that even on the practice images, and we've covered this a few times, just how important password policies and having secure passwords is. It's probably on every competition there's something about passwords. So if you're not checking passwords, then yeah, you're probably missing something. How about anyone else want to volunteer their biggest breakthrough? Looking back, I saw that Andy said checklists were definitely helped. That's another thing is once you have those checklists, it really makes sure that you're not forgetting anything along the way. And those of you who prepared, you saw how useful those were. I recently found out that the competition that they do at the very end, the one, if you were to get chosen to go to the, on the all expense paid trip, they do not allow you to use electronic resources, so scripts and online checklists and things like that. They're not available to you, but you can bring all the paper you want. So you might consider that. Yeah. Okay, Chloe, go ahead. Yeah, so Chloe pointed out that if during probably even the practice image, there was some things that were repeated. So always think about what those things work. Now, as we've said in the past, you don't always get points for things that are actually good security practices, but anyway.
You never know which things will give you points, so try them all.
You never know which ones will give you points, so try them all. I want to, and this was actually Mrs. Wood's observation from the last competition, was perseverance. She saw some teams never giving up, sticking it out, going all the way in. In fact, she made a comment to me. She was really impressed by some of the new teams, ones that didn't have any prior experience, how they just kept going and going and going, and that they were getting points right up to the bitter end. So it's really important that you don't throw up your arms and give up. Do you want to add to that, Ms. Wood?
No, I think that, yeah, the perseverance was a huge factor. I was a little disappointed in the OG room, and Mr. Bush and I discussed this a little bit about how maybe if you guys had some adult nudging, you would have stayed a little bit longer. Remember, you get a 6-hour window for a reason, so don't be afraid to use it. And if we are getting quote unquote bored, then yeah, you need some motivational music, or get up and get some candy, or go take a walk, or have somebody else in your team jump on the computer. Sometimes if you've been looking, and I know you guys have probably done this with essays or math problems or something, you've just looked at something for way too long and your eyes just kind of start going cross-eyed. Have somebody else look at it, even if it means that they've never even looked at a Windows machine before and they've only done Cisco or only done Linux or whatever. Have them look at it, because what they've tried in Linux may work on their Windows machine too. Okay, you never know. You never know. So the
word. Great comment.
Yeah.
This is Jeff. That's a great comment. A second set of eyes is always helpful. You never know what kind of insight you'll get, and the second set of eyes could point something out that will just spark that idea in your head that ultimately gets you to the answer that you're looking for.
And also, I mentioned this to the folks, and I kind of said it when I was there visiting, but this is the very first year we've had a perfect score in any of the actual competitions, and it's very impressive. And one thing that was by the Firewall Nation, when they got through most of the problems in the first 2 hours or so. And then they knew they had 3 remaining things to find. And so what they said was, we have 4 more hours to go, so we're going to find it. And they stuck it out and did. So hats off to them, and great job on that. All right, so that was the last competition. The competitions are going to get harder as we go, so I'm not necessarily expecting the perfect score, although I definitely want one for the next round. So the gauntlet's been thrown down for them. The topic today is we're going to talk about services and servers. You saw during the practice round we had, what's that?
Next page.
Oh, next page. We saw in the practice round that we had a Windows Server 2016 was one of the images, and we looked ahead, and there will be on the state round will be covered as well. So we wanted to just go over what is a server, because even though some of you probably even used one, you may not really know exactly what the difference is. Okay, so let's see. What's a service? So you can read it up here. A service provides something that's needed by its users. And the reason why I said users can be people or other computers is that really when the computer is out there, and there's a service being provided, it may be just helping out another computer or some middle ground. In the end, it's to help people. And we're going to cover a little bit more on that. But the next question next thing to cover is how does a computer provide its services? And these are some common terms. The first one is daemons. Pronounced daemons or the demons or?
I've always said demons, but
demons,
a lot
yeah.
of people do daemons.
Daemons and demons.
And demons. So.
And processes on Windows, and these daemons and demons or processes provide the services via protocols. So let me flip back just to the prior slide and then get some discussion. Okay, so I just gave you a quick overview of what services are, and if you weren't paying attention, it's gone now. So, but can anyone think of anything that is a service that might be provided by a computer that's out there? Okay, Telnet. What is Telnet? Do you know, Aren? What is Telnet? It's sketchy. Yeah.
Yeah, lots of security holes in that one.
SSH. So what does SSH stand for, Landon? Secure something. Secure shell. Do you know what a secure shell does? Can anyone? You can Google it right now if you want.
That's right.
Yeah, it's secure network communications.
That's right, Landon.
Between client and server, that's right. I'm going to put it in layman's terms. It's usually how you connect to, how you can be from a remote location or a different computer, connect into another computer and sort of access it directly. The shell part is when we're thinking about like the Bourne shell. When you're sitting in a you can think of the command line interface in some cases as a shell, and the secure shell is a way of getting into that securely.
Right.
That's one way of defining it.
And this is Lester Claudio again. One of the things reason why for example, is it Aaron?
Aaron, yeah.
Aaron said that Telnet is sketchy is because it sends all the packets in the open, right? So you can actually get a packet sniffer or something like that and actually read what's happening. So one of the things that you use with Telnet is you connect to a server and it actually, you log in to that server. So instead of actually being physically in front of that server, you can actually virtually go in there. And that's why
remote console.
And do a remote console, exactly. I mean, we're kind of doing that with this service GoToMeeting, right?
Yep.
We're actually using a client and it's actually going through. Now, the difference between Telnet and SSH is the secure part. So there's a protocol underneath that that basically secures the data that's going between those two machines, and that really is what is important on the security side and the difference between those two services. They provide the same functionality. You connect to that other server and you get what they call a shell, but yet it's a different way of doing it. One is unsecure, the other one is secure.
So you'll also find that Secure Shell is actually a family of protocols, right? So not only do you have a secure shell, secure console access, like Telnet, but you can also do SFTP, which uses secure shell as well, to do secure file transfers. And you can also secure other protocols by tunneling them through the secure tunnel that SSH creates.
And I saw Ethan, it sounds like you use that already. So Ethan, did you do the Linux for your team on the last competition? We'll get into, Mark, we'll get into the topic about the images a little bit later, but Ethan, anything you want to add? Did it with Lucas, but he's more knowledgeable. Okay. All right, let's go back to the slide again. Oops. Okay, so now we talked about what those services are, and we gave the generic term. Now let's go back to what a daemon and a process is. Can anyone generically explain what a process is on a Windows system? I'll give you a chance to try to answer. You can Google this too. I see silence in the chat room.
So let's talk about a little bit about processes. For example, what's one of the processes that you normally use in a Windows box? A process really is an application, so I'll give you a hint on that.
I'm going to just do Task Manager as a way of showing them.
Sure.
So Task Manager here, when you launch Task Manager, some of you may know about Task Manager because the program is hung up and you're trying to stop it. But you can see this tab here is of the processes, and you have some of the programs that you're running, like I've got Google Chrome, we have GoToMeeting going. But then there's these background processes. And a lot of times when we're talking about a service, we're talking about something that's running in the background.
Great.
So I've got, Dropbox, what's going on here? Okay. Let me go back. Now, protocol. Can anyone describe generically what a protocol is? There's 32 people out there. Surely somebody knows something. Mrs. Wood, you want to pick on somebody?
There you go, Andy.
A way of communicating, that's correct.
A way of communicating.
Yep.
Brandon, you said a set of instructions. I'd say it's more a way that you're supposed to communicate.
Well, I would say probably what Leon said is a set of rules.
Yeah.
Is closer to what a protocol would be.
Right. Rules.
It's kind of defining, if you will, a language or a grammar associated with the communication that you're having with whatever service you're talking to.
Right.
I think Lester is going to go through an explanation of a specific protocol that all of you, I'm sure, are very acquainted with, but never knew it at this level.
Yeah, and if you're feeling a little bit lost, that's okay. We are trying to teach you here. At the end is when we'll ask everybody questions, and you can respond by what you learned just now. So I'm going to click on the link here, which is, we have a link in here about SMCP. Does anybody know what SMCP stands for?
There you go.
Hey, thank you.
Ethan, awesome.
Very good. Does anyone know what, so that's what
How about
it
FTP?
stands for. Does anybody know what it's for?
Good job.
Yeah, Landon got file transfer. Yeah, email. Very good. Leon, that's very good.
Awesome.
Okay, so I'm going to click on the link here. And this is obviously in the charts, but Lester was pointing out that it had some good exchanges in here.
Great. So the Simple Mail Transfer Protocol is one of the first services that we built before, to actually communicate and send electronic emails, right? One of the things that we realized, was that we made it simple, right? I went to college at University of Maryland, and we actually implemented the RFC for the Simple Mail Protocol in the 80s. And, quickly we realized that it was, one, very simple, but two, very insecure, right? But the basic premise of this is that we built a service where a client application and our server, which is really the service, the SMTP daemon, we needed them to talk and send this electronic mail concept from one user to another. So what you see here in the box is that, a client really the first thing it does, it connects to a server, and it connects to the server via a port. We had what we had at that point were well-known ports, and 25 was the SMTP mail port. So what you see on the right is basically what the client really tells the server. It says, hey, the server responds, hello there, and the client...
Does it really respond that?
Yep, most of the time it actually says hello.
So if you're watching the network traffic of the two computers talking to each other, you would see hello there as a response.
Right.
And then then the next one is
the client sending hello, and give it a host name. and the server will respond, pleased to meet you.
So it's telling it like who it is, and then, right. So pleased to meet you is actually two computers are saying pleased to meet you and hello there to each other.
Right.
And they can't spell hello, I guess, but
yeah, I'm not sure why it was only one L, but yes.
Yeah.
As you can see, the actual commands were only 4 characters, right? So I think that was the whole premise of that.
Oh, I see. Hello.
Yep. So at that point, we didn't really have these big beefy computers that we have today with a lot of RAM. So therefore, these commands were only 4 characters long. And I mean, even the from and the to, the recipient address obviously could be a little bit longer. But even that, we would have user IDs that were first name, first initial of your thing.
So let me ask a couple questions to see who's paying attention. We're talking about this protocol, but what's this protocol for? Somebody answer
electronic mail
in the chat. Were you paying attention? Ms. Wood, I'd like you to pick on someone if we don't get an answer soon.
Well, Leon, before homed on it.
Am I picking on somebody? You want me to pick on somebody?
Yeah, I'd like you to find someone who should have been paying attention or who is paying attention and ask, we just went through this protocol and what is it for?
Joy, do you know what it is? Go for it. I know you're paying attention because you've been chatting it away over there. I think Brennan is asking also, how old is this protocol? Can one of you guys answer that while we're waiting for Joy to pay attention and answer?
It's old, for sure. I don't remember exactly when the RFC, and the RFC really is request for comments. That's how we used to start our dialogue as far as creating standards.
It was in the 80s.
But it was even before that. Absolutely,
okay.
Yeah. But it's definitely even in the 70s, there were some things.
First defined in 821 and 1982, was updated in 2008.
There you go. 1982.
So, Ms. Wood, Joy missed the question. So you might want to pick on somebody else.
Somebody want to help her out? Come on, you guys. You guys are all jumping in here.
To transfer simple mail.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great job, Ethan. Thank you. Thank you, Brennan. Good job, you guys.
Between a client and the server. So somebody said between servers. This is between a client and the server. Of course, I guess a client.
Yes.
Server could be a client.
So what happens is that when a client sends something to an SMTP daemon, the daemon then becomes a client if it's not for a recipient in that computer. So all of a sudden the daemon turns around and says, oh, I know where that other computer is. I'm going to send him the email because I'm going to forward it.
Right.
And all of a sudden the server becomes the client to that other server in the other.
Right.
So that's how things would forward to the right recipient in different computers. Right?
And I think you'd notice that the verbosity of the responses is likely due to the fact that in the beginning it was a person that was literally telnetting into this service.
Mm-hmm. And doing the first step and the second.
And following through the steps.
Hello.
One by one.
Today
you have email clients that do all this stuff for you
go, boom, boom,
behind the scenes.
Right.
But when in the early days, that was all a terminal service that you were connecting to.
That's how I debug my programs in SMTP.
So
anyway.
All right. So just to remind you why we're talking about that. Protocols, and we just walked through what a protocol was, or an example of a protocol. It's the way that you interact with the services is through this protocol, through some set of instructions or steps, And the protocol describes what happens. And if you were thinking about just between people, people are much more flexible than protocols are on the computers, but there are protocols, and that's why you hear like, what is the protocol when you are to meet a prince? And we saw there's a question up there from Leon. Do you want to try and answer that? Or?
Sure. So Leon says, so when you send an email to an invalid email address and a mailer daemon or whatever the account response, is that the service that's responding to the client? Absolutely. The server is actually going and saying, I tried to send this to another, let's say I'm forwarding to another server, the server is responding saying, I don't know who that person is, or I don't know even what that domain is, and then responds with that thing. So that's part of the protocol, by the way.
Okay, so we'll come back to those things and questions at the end, but let's go on to the next page here. Okay, what's a server? All right, and simply speaking, a server provides a service. So the service can be both, like, I guess in our case, for the kind of competitions we do, we have two different types of servers. We either have a Linux server or a Windows server, and the type of operating system that is, Windows 10, we don't consider that a server because it doesn't provide services generally to other computers, and the software, the operating system for Windows Server is made specifically to provide services. It's also on a network. Obviously, it's going to be hard to provide services if you don't, if you're not on a network. You're providing them from one computer to another. In this case, we're talking about, it could be a local service, like on a local, without having to go very far, or it could be
A remote service.
on a remote service, yeah. Can anyone think of a service that, let's see, we already talked about services. Can anyone think of a server that you might interact with? Where would that server be, and what it might be doing for you? Okay, DNS, that's a good one, Landon. And does anyone know what, besides Landon, anyone know what it stands for? DNS?
Yep.
Domain name service, domain name. I don't know if system is right, but
I think it's domain name service.
Service.
And but I'll just give you an anecdote. Before we had the domain name service, which is basically dynamically sending a name and getting back what we call an IP address, we have what we call a host name. And if you go over to, in the Linux box, into the /etc directory, you'll see what they call it. It's a host file. And that host file, when I used to work in the Department of Navy, we had a huge host file that we managed with thousands of hosts, and we would have to all coordinate and make sure that when we added a host to that host file, we all participated in this meeting to make sure that everybody knew that host. That's where the domain name service came about, where it just became unmanageable to have this host file.
Yeah, unless you're talking about something that still is around today, even in these systems, and it's not generally used, but it is there. Let's see, in Windows, it's under...
Actually in the same kind of place, Windows, System,
System.
It's either system or system 32. It goes to
No.
system 32.
Yeah.
Because that's a system 32.
System 32, where is it? What did I do? Oh, yeah.
There you go. And
Is it ETC or?
You can always look for it. And it's plural, so
Hosts.
yeah.
no, yeah.
Is anyone finding it in the chat? There it
There
is.
you go, driver.
There you go.
Yep.
So this file used to have thousands of, so it would basically have an IP address and then the name of the system.
Right. And so what they did was they created a service, a daemon, that actually then now responds to, I only have a subset of hosts that I know of, but if I don't know of those hosts, then I would forward
To another
to another system.
Yeah.
So
That's the announcement.
So let's see. I want to jump ahead here. But we didn't talk about security risks.
Yep.
So if you have a server and it's providing services, then that means it's listening, right? We just talked about how email, you have to listen for somebody. That opens you up for exploitation. And the port we talked about for SMTP, the well-known port for that was, what was it,
25.
25.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for port 25, now if you're running a different service and on a different port, it could be exploited if a hacker did something like a buffer flow overflow attack. So that's why part of Cyber Patriots focuses on turning off some services, turning off things like Telnet. See, there were some questions like up there. This is Brennan trying to find out, asking about backdoors. So a backdoor could also be a service that's running on a server. And then in the case of a backdoor, it's something that you don't want on there because it allows hackers to get in. I see we're kind of going long here, so I want to move on to the next thing. So Windows Server 2016, I already gave you some, we already discussed some things like file sharing or web services that a server provides. There will be Windows Server 2016 on the competition, and you should try out a practice image to get used to it. Today, I built an image, and I'm going to bring it up on my VMware here. And let's see, I need to put that smaller, otherwise I'm going to get some technical difficulties here. There we go. All right, can everybody see my Windows Server going? Okay, good. So it looks a lot like Windows 10 when you first look at it. There's a Windows thing in the corner, but the big thing is the server manager. And the server manager allows you to change how the server is configured. And this is an example of roles that can be provided. So you can see I have selected Active Directory. There's an option to select a web server. These are all the different kinds of services that could be provided. SMTP on here?
Yeah.
There's an SMTP server.
SMTP server. So we could add that as a feature.
Now, one thing to note about this is when you talk about a server role or feature, it doesn't necessarily correlate one for one to one feature to a single service. One feature or one role may create multiple services with respect to open ports on your machine, right?
Right.
So understanding how one feature is going to affect the security or posture of your machine depends on your understanding of that.
So once, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this image once it's finished out on the Google Drive and you guys can use it. I'm going to turn on a scoring engine on it, and that'll be a chance for you guys to get more familiar with Windows Server. All right, so now we're on to question and answer, and I'll just flash up some of the questions here. And this is for somebody who hasn't answered anything already, and Mrs. Wood, maybe you can help pick on somebody as we go through these questions. It's kind of in a weird order, but can you help me choose somebody?
Sure. Let's see. Who haven't we picked on in a while? Name a service that is that a server might provide. Is that where we're at right here?
Yeah.
Donna, go ahead. I know you're listening. While we wait for Donna, Mr. Rodriguez, maybe you can answer Brennan's question. He said, are there any Ubuntu images that have a backdoor that we can practice on?
So you're referring to
like a practice image?
Well, practice image that has an exploitable backdoor. Well, that's technically any image could have that. And
I think what he means is, like, if on the competition there was a backdoor, how do you find it and get rid of it?
So
do we have any images that they would be challenged to do?
We'll have to think about what kind of challenging backdoors and
there was
things we'll have to put on an image for them.
Yeah, I remember one of the competitions a few years ago did have that as one of in the forensics question, said there was there's a backdoor running on this computer.
Right.
What port is it listening to? Was the question. So you had to both identify something that was kind of out of place, so backdoor, right, and then figure out what port it was running on. So. Joy remembers that one.
Okay.
Who wants to think of that?
I think Donna answered the address. That was the answer to her question. Name a service that the server might provide.
Yeah, so if a server may provide domain name service, which the domain name service converts a name to an address. So yeah. Let's see. How about I think we actually covered all these questions already. Does anybody know what a port is? Would like to answer? Yeah, Brennan said something is like an input for a computer. Well, those are true. Those are physical ports on your computer, like a USB port. It's like a thing you plug a USB into, right? When we're talking about internet ports, we're talking about basically a number that tells the computer.
So the best way to think of a port when you're talking about networking, think of the IP address as the address of a postal station that has mailboxes inside it. right?
Right.
So inside once you get to that address, inside that post office, you have thousands and thousands of mailboxes in there, right? And each one of them is numbered 1 through 65,000. And your services are designed to sit and listen or look for data that's been put inside one of those little boxes.
Right.
So in this particular case, for simple mail transfer protocol, you could say box 25. So there's somebody there standing there looking in 25 for something to come in, right?
Yep.
Whenever you put something in that box, it turns around and responds back with an answer.
Yep. And Ethan, you, as Mr. Rodriguez was talking, you were saying something very similar on there. Thank you very much.
So Brandon talks about, can you use PS-EF? Can you give me a context? Is that?
I think he's trying to still find the evil
back
door. Yeah.
I mean, in Linux for sure, there's a command that you can use called netstat that actually gives you the active ports. So if you understand what ports you started with, and then you see one that's kind of rogue, you can find that. And with PS-EF, you can actually find if there's a process that you don't recognize that might be doing something harmful. So yes, Brendan, I think you could use both.
It's kind of a combination. And PS is sort of like when I showed you the task manager on Windows. PS gives the processors that are running on a Linux machine.
Right. Just list the processes that are running.
Well, we're just about out of time.
And real quick for Brennan, if you want to look at the active ports that are listening to things, you would do a netstat and then -A, and it'll give you all the active ports. Just FYI for that.
Let's see, just one other quick thing. I mentioned I built this image I'm making available, but also this is a reminder that all you have access or should have access to the DreamSpark, which is where you can get the ISO images for lots of different Windows software, and then you can also get a key thing that you need, and that is the keys, the product keys, which allows you to run that image. So this is what's on there, and I'll just do a quick search for server. And there's Windows Server. There's a bunch of different versions. I didn't pull down the data center version, but you pick on it, add to cart, check out. It's free for you guys. And then you can download it. All right, so I'm gonna stop sharing. Mrs. Wood, is there anything else we need to cover?
I'm just looking at the chat room as it comes in. Realistically, for people who are brand new to make an image, Mr. Bush, how long do you think that it would take them? I know that there is a YouTube video that it said, well, you can make an image in less than 5 minutes, but you would have more experience with that, and maybe could answer that question better. I think honestly, it depends on how difficult you make it, and I think it depends on what you want to include. But I don't know, maybe you can help with that answer a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, I'll do a quick answer. So in terms of the process, you basically, once you have downloaded your the ISO image from the DreamSpark, and you can just go in through VMware and follow the process to create a new. That part is pretty quick because you basically hook it up to the ISO. It's like inserting a disk into a drive, and then you boot it, and it says, enter in the product key, and off you go. But what takes a long time is these installations. It's sort of like you have to click OK. You have to wait until it finishes, and then once it's done, almost all of these need to have the Windows Update applied before you can go, unless you're actually trying to create an image that needs to be later on to be updated. But like, for example, the Windows Server 2016, I couldn't even add those other services until the Windows Update had been applied. It just wouldn't work. So that's where you kind of get into the time sink of things. It's not the initial creation, it's then figuring out what to do with it and whatever. So, but you can spend as much time as you like on it. If you want to make a scoring image, then you need to download and install the scoring engine, and that doesn't take long as well, but it's more takes time to configure everything. So
I think Andy just asked if we're new, do we have to make an image? No, it's not a requirement, Andy. And we are requiring all of the members who have been in Cyber Patriot before to do one. However, it is a great idea to go ahead and try and make the image, because it will show you all kinds of different vulnerabilities that are available that they can use in the competitions.
Yeah, with the scoring engine, when you're setting up the scoring engine, you are basically like the people on the other side of the Cyber Patriots and configuring problems that need to be resolved. So it's just like anything. When you become try to teach someone something, you learn it a lot better.
Does anybody else have any other questions tonight? There were some really interesting discussions going on about GUIs in the 1980s on the chat room today.
Yeah, I saw that. That's pretty funny. There were none.
But, are you still saving the chats?
Yes. Oh, yes, I am. I will make sure that this chat is definitely posted with the YouTube file if we can. So yes, okay. Remember, we need to be appropriate for school. I did warn some of us back in the beginning here. Anything else, Mr. Bush, Mr. Rodriguez?
No, I just want to thank Lester for coming, and we're hoping to get more of his help and participating in the GoToMeetings and helping prepare some material to teach you guys. Anyway, good discussion. Glad people were participating. You guys want to say anything?
Keep an eye on the Cyber Patriot wiki that we're creating. You may see some things from Lester on there about Linux or any other topics. And if you have anything that you want to post into the wiki, make sure you let me, Mr. Bush or Ms. Wood know what you would like to have posted in there, and we'll go ahead and make sure it gets posted in there for future reference.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rodriguez, for creating that as well. I will make sure that you guys get that emailed to you along with the copy of this recording tonight as well.
Okay. Cool. Right. Thanks for letting me participate. This was really fun.
Yeah, glad that you were with us. I'm going to stop recording.